What is good, my people? We are live back again with another, live show. You know what I'm saying? I want y'all to call in and be a part of the show. Coming on here to holler at y'all, before I get to work on the next video. I'm gonna try to have it up by Sunday. So, I want to come on here and talk to y'all real quick. And the call-in number is right there on the screen is 804-601-4015. So, I want y'all to definitely call in and you can talk about whatever. But, I know a lot of people have seen, angry about what happened to that, black guy from the army or whatever. But again, it takes certain incidents and certain things to set us off for, just for a brief period of time. It seemed like, we don't stay militant ourselves, right? But we got to understand the kind of system that we are in, right? And it is no joke that, we are dealing with psychopaths, and psychopaths do things to terrorize you to keep you in your place, right? But they know as long as we, fight for them to maintain their system, then it's all good. Yo, what's going on, brother Bakari? Yeah, you could definitely call in and stuff. I'm just calling, coming in to holler at the people or whatever. But we got to understand like how the military is there to enforce the system of white supremacy. That's how the military has always been used, and that's what the military is there for, to enforce this whole system, right? And so us joining up to help enforce that system, which in turn means it has to be a black inferiority for there to be a white supremacy. So you joining up to fight for that makes no sense, right? And we have century after century after century of evidence of that. And the thing is, if we actually did study our history, and this is the main reason why it's important for us to not know our history for them, because if we studied our history, we wouldn't keep getting into the same cycles, because we've learned the same lessons over and over and over, right? And you know there's a severe Stockholm syndrome when we are a group of people that have been through what we have, and we still fight to be a part of somebody else's army, to be a part of somebody else's, you know, the somebody else's army, to destroy other people, to destroy ourselves. And we still sit there and fight. And you can go back to the Civil War, and this is important things that people need to look up, because you know it's important for them to take our history away so they can give us our idols for us, so they can tell us who we are supposed to look up to, right? They erase our people that we really should be looking up to, and they give us who they think we should be looking up in their place, right? That's why we have been so whitewashed. We can call people like, Bill Clinton the first black president, and we bring up racist people like Abraham Lincoln and stuff, just from history. But if we understood like the real history, then we wouldn't even say that, right? And for the people who think America has fought to free slaves, you need to look up something called the Morale Act or whatever. I think it's the Morale Act that Abraham Lincoln brought up himself. Right now, this was basically what started the Civil War. Right, Abraham Lincoln, in his own words, he said, "I have no purpose, directly or indirectly, interfering with the institution of slavery in states where it exists, and he had no lawful right to do so, and he had no inclination to do so." He said his only policy was to collect tax revenue before issuing this tariff act. Now, what this did was impose a 40% sales tax on slave states because they was making so much money, right? And this is the very reason why that whole war started. It wasn't to free the slaves as America likes to break it down to you. And you need to look up the Morrill Tariff Act, and you'll see for yourself. Right now, at the beginning, right when Lincoln first started calling for people to join in, right, all of these black people freeing the slave runaways and all of that was trying to join. Now, he still hadn't even said anything about this Emancipation Proclamation that he made, but all of these black people was running up to sign up for the army. And do you know what happened? They were immediately turned away because America, and they like to play dumb a lot. They like to say, I didn't know that was a gun, that was a taser. But they were smart enough to know that I better not arm these Negroes, because if I arm these Negroes and then I come with my guns ready to hurt their children, they might shoot back. So they understood that it's important not to necessarily arm black people in the army. But like his predecessor George Washington did, and in the Revolutionary War, they had no choice but to get black people to join the army when they start losing, right? But Abraham Lincoln, who people love to put up as this, because they always say this person, we fought for black people and we can't be, but they understand the history, but they don't teach you the history. That's why it's important for you to understand the history with your own perspective, from a black perspective, from the stuff that we've been through. Right now, with all of these black people being turned away, right? Of course, the North was getting crushed. They was losing battle after battle, just like every time America, because every single time, and this is what we have to understand, every single time America has tried to do it without us. And every single time they have failed. When they came over here before, 1607 or 1619 or whatever they like to say, before they came over here about 4 times. And each time their whole tribe failed. They straight like died off. Right. I heard a comedian say a joke, it was like fish and berries everywhere, like, fruit growing out the ground. And the natives see these Europeans coming in, and they sitting there eating each other, right? Straight cannibalism. And every time their culture died out, and they had to come and get us. So this is a repeat throughout history. And this is something that we have to remember for when we get to the position that we are in. But once they start losing battle after battle, it was one general from the Union Army. They started trying to take property from the Confederate, and trying to free any slaves, saying if you took up arms against the Confederate, against the slave owners, then we'll give you freedom, right? But Abraham Lincoln himself told him to stop saying it and stop doing it. He overruled them, saying he didn't want to offend any slave states that may be on the side, right? He himself went out there to say we don't want to get free anybody. We don't want to offend the slave. We want to keep the Union together. Now this is like what they'll never tell you about their, forefathers or whatever. But these are the people we are supposed to worship. But if we knew like the real details about everything, then we wouldn't be worshiping them. Now, of course they had to eventually start, you know, enlisting black people. But, even the only thing that Abraham Lincoln did was, and they like to say slavery wasn't in the North, he issued Anybody who released their slaves, they would be compensated for. They would get reparations. Slave owners would get reparations for any slave that they, released. And he was going to introduce the bill, but he didn't even do that. Now this is the person that we give credit for ending something that we never ended, right? This is really lying to you. This is straight gaslighting to keep you in your position, right? So you don't know who you are, and you are worshiping the people that they tell you to worship, right? And the thing is, right, people like Ida B. Wells broke this same thing down back in the 1800s, right? In the words of Ida B. Wells, the same people who are writing the reports are the same ones who justify the lynchings. And they said the world accept these reports without a question or anything, right? Well, at least until now, until us, because we understand how it is. They understand war. It's just that they have to keep you confused and dazed and not knowing what's going on. And they have to pretend like they don't know what's going on because they always use misdirection, right? They make you think that they're bigger than what they are, but they really are not. And that's how they have to do it. Because if you understood who you are, why would you ever be a slave? Why would anybody be a slave for anybody? But if you understood who you are, why would you be a slave for somebody like that? So how else is somebody going to get you to break your will? And anybody who mind frame is to get you to break your will already is working with some psychopathic tendencies themselves. And they understood it was never about protecting white women. They don't care about white women. White women are the same. They enforce white supremacy the same, but they don't care about white women to go out and slaughter 300 people because one white woman falsely accused a black man. It was always and will always be about economics, because you keep somebody depending on you, thinking you need them, when in reality they need you, right? You're going to keep them around. And the more abuse that they give you, the more you're going to try to get validation from them, because they took everything that you already had. And she understood, and what we have to understand, that it was all about economics, right? As long as they can control the dollar bills and the faces that we see on our dollars is the same people that would have killed us, and we fighting each other for it, they know we're in a subservient position. But what we don't know is, in the 1890s, there were over 20,000 black businesses, black owned businesses. And that's because they had no choice, right? It wasn't just Black Wall Street, it was everywhere, because it wasn't like segregation and racism was just in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was everywhere. They had to support each other, right? And like Ida B. Wells' friend, he owned a grocery store. And see, this is how they did it and how we can do it right now, right? What they did was started co-ops, right? And I'm pretty sure all of us have been talking about it for so long, but we can't talk about it. We have to be about it. And we have been about it, right? 100 years ago, right? And they would have lynched me for saying any of the stuff that I'm saying now. They tried to lynch Ida B. Wells for saying the stuff that she's saying. But, 100 years ago, how did they create over 20,000 black owned businesses? They used co-ops, right? They had 10 people who owned a grocery store in the neighborhood. And the thing that about white society, when you see uh you have these white-owned businesses, and they see black people who happen to take black people money, right? And they see them going to a black-owned store, they're gonna team up with the KKK and go in and destroy those businesses. Right now, it's not 1800s, right? They don't wear sheets anymore. They wear business suits now. And, we go out and elect them to be our politicians because, the lesser of two evils and all of that. But there's no reason why we can't start co-ops right now. We know we're in desperate need of our own grocery stores, right? So we know they infect their food to not only harm us, but to harm their own people, to control whoever they want to control, to keep society the way that they want to keep it. And you have to understand that psychopaths live in this delusional world where they believe that they are superior. But at the same time, they know the truth, right? But they have to get you to be submissive. You have to be submissive to their system. You have to go by their rules, by their laws. And you have to join their fight to come destroy everyone else. Now, there are black people who joined the military who on some spook who sat by the door stuff. Because, you go back to the 1920s and the same cycles keep happening. There's revolutions every few years there's revolution since we've been in America. But we don't hear about certain revolutions because a lot of our revolutionary leaders are white from history. And that's for a reason. And we keep repeating the same cycle. And if you don't know it, then it's going to keep repeating. Right? Because after World War I, you know, they didn't want to let black people join the military then either for the same reasons. And definitely when they got back, it was a whole different thing. They were like, look, I fought for my country. I'm not going to sit up here and let you come and, you know, harm my child or harm any of us. They was ready to fight back. And now they had guns and they had been trained. Right? And we don't hear about all of these military actions that, our people do. Right? They literally got together and defended the town and drove the people off in most cases. Because, a lot of times people are scared, but we should be more scared not to do something. We are smart people. We know not to just run up to something if you're outmanned or outgunned. That's not how they won these battles. That's not how they won these wars. You can look at everyone from the Haitian Revolution, how they drove this massive French army, drove them out with lesser weapons because they used their mind. They used they used nature, right? They understood the terrain. They didn't understand the terrain. Their genes wouldn't let them handle the weather. They kept getting sick, right? They used surprise attacks and then left after they caught him slipping. But that's how they did it. And when they was ready to come into their towns, because believe me, every time that you start picking yourself up and start doing that, right now, then they just resorted to flat out violence. And they'll go in and destroy the whole town. And don't think that they won't do the same thing again. right? One of the last survivors, I think her name was Minnie Taylor or whatever, from Rosewood, or I think, no, it was Black Wall Street, I think. She said, if black people ever get their own town or own situation or own place, don't do it around these group of people, because the same thing could happen to you. Because you have to understand how they see it. They feel like they own you. You are their servant. You are their slave. When they say jump, you're supposed to jump. And how dare you not jump? That's why they tell you, well, just show respect and no cop will kill you. When we know that it doesn't matter what you do. That's just how they tell you. They tell you that you're supposed to just, you know, accept what we do to you, don't complain, shut up, and go by our rules. Now, these are the same people where if you give them one rule that they don't like, they will burn everything down. But they don't want you to have that same mindset. It's not do as I do, it's do as I say. And that's what you have to learn from your enemy. That's why you have to start studying your enemy, because they're not going to sit for that. When they had to pay back that money from the revolution, they burned everything down. When Donald Trump, a dumb president, got kicked out, they went up and was ready to kill people. But you have people coming into your home shooting you dead, from 7-year-old little girls to elderly people, and you going out with a sign saying, please don't do this anymore. That's the mindset of submissiveness that they ingrained in you. But you have to get that out of your spirit. You have to recognize who you are, right? They don't go through all of that trouble to gaslight, lie, keep you in your place. But at the same time, they can't get enough of you, right? How sick is it that they tell you to leave, but then they have all white crowds and have white people acting like black people in blackface? How sick is that? Where they kill people and cut off their genitals and save them in a jar. This is who you're dealing with. And to try to fit in a society like that is going to drive you insane, because it's an insane society. You can't take the roots of something out of it and still have the same thing. If it was built off of your destruction, it can only live off your destruction. How are you going to take that out and still have the same system? How are you going to start from scratch and have everybody have a fair chance? It's not going to happen. And do you know what? And you can ask the most liberal white person if they would give up everything they got to start from scratch and destroy this system and to build a fair system. No, they want to make a quote unquote better America, where we just aren't out here getting shot up and, just blatantly. But really, we should be mad we don't control our own food. We should be mad that we don't control our own schools. We should be mad that somebody else determines the money that we have in our pockets and put people that would have lynched all of us. And we sit here fighting each other, killing each other for that. We should be mad that they attacked our families and systematically did this, right? And we're in recovery from, it's not 1989, it's not the crack epidemic, right? Right now, that's going back to them and their opioids. But you see, they set up safe drug houses for them. They're not putting them in prisons. And it's not, they tell you one thing, and that's why you can't listen to their words. Look at their actions. Most of it is an economic war. They keep you from doing in your own land what you're supposed to do. Just look at Haiti, right? They can't even have their own natural product, natural produce or whatever. They can't ship out their own stuff. But you look at the places where we inhabit, right? It's always nice. It's always the most natural resources, but it's always the poorest. That's by design. None of this is by mistake. It's all by design. And looking back on history, when you really do look on history, it's relatively new. But they have to keep you ignorant on history because really they studying you from the beginning until now. But as long as they keep you economically starved and dependent on them for every single thing and feel feeling of helplessness, when in reality you are the battery, you are the strength. But if they keep you feeling, it's like the ugly duckling syndrome, right? You are the battery, you are the power, you are everything. But they keep you in a position where you're feeling helpless, where you can't do nothing. And in reality, if you really did nothing, that would collapse everything. If you just sat there and stopped, that's why they can't get rid of you. That's why they can't. That's the great Negro problem of America. Right? How did we still have slavery? Because perpetual slavery means forever. Perpetual is forever. It's to keep you in your same spot. So, like Ida B. Wells broke it down, it's about the lynch law, right? It's to keep you confused. It's to keep you destroyed economically, to keep you not relying on self. And as long as you look to your enemy to keep you sustained, then they're going to keep you where they want you. They give you whatever they want to be in a position to give you power so they can take that power away. But it's not theirs to give. But that's a psychopathic mindset. It's psychotic. And they have no problem to enforce the lynch law using the Casual Killing Act, right? Well, if a Negro gets out of line while you're correcting him, then it's okay, right? If you're resisting, hey, then we can do whatever we want to do to you. Now, you tell me where on the books any of these laws have been overturned, right? Tennessee right now in their constitution, they have the same constitution as the American Constitution, by the way, but they're trying to get slavery out of, the whole thing anyway, right? But the American Constitution itself tells you slavery is legal in America in 2021. And you tell me where it ever says that you are a citizen. I can show you where it says you 3/5 of a person, but I can't tell you where it's been overturned. I can show you cases where, you're not a person. Therefore, white person doesn't have to respect anything that you have or do or say. I just can't see where it was overturned. That's why, as black people, before you join the military, you have to learn about your history, right? Like, the Houston riot of 1917, the black soldiers, their mutiny. They came back. They were at war. Of course, they got tired of what was going on, so they went around town and they put in work. Now, when they got caught up, of course it was the largest hanging of, especially of soldiers, but of people, especially at the time. I think they hung 40 some people. But the thing is, those people stayed on code. Some people got punished who wasn't even involved. Some people who was involved didn't get punished because when they came asking questions, they didn't tell on each other. They didn't fold. They knew the situation. They knew what it was. And before we start joining somebody else's military, we at least got to get history of black people in the military in America. And, we'll see how they feel. And by the way, anybody could call in. Um, I know this I guess this troll right here is a fan or whatever, but they won't call in and say what they gotta say. But any of y'all could call in 804-601-4015 and listen to that. Somebody will tell you, anybody who tells you money doesn't buy happiness, right? And it's not about money buying happiness, right? It's about having self autonomy. It's about black people having this co-op where you have black farmers, and we know these people ain't putting these pesticides or whatever they putting in our foods, right? Now we in control of our own food, what we growing. But if you get too much, if you're doing too much, then somebody's gonna knock on your door. Do you know why? Because psychopaths have to be in control of you. They have to keep you in a place of submission. But you cannot be afraid, right? We have the spirit of all of our ancestors who have fought so hard. That's why we have to understand how much we have fought. What's going on, William Richardson? That's why we have to understand how much we have fought in history. And that's why they keep us from understanding that. And as long as they can determine our heroes, and not only our heroes, because they will put up people like Martin Luther King or whatever, right? But they won't tell you how Martin Luther King started talking about economics and getting this money. Now they'll say, "Oh, what would Martin Luther King say?" Well, I don't know. He got shot in the face, but I know he did say we want our money. Now, a group of people will tell you money ain't about stuff, nothing. When we're here right now because of their economic policies, how they can destroy and murder civilizations for profit. But they will tell you money ain't everything. They'll get up on this moral high horse, right? Coming from morals that they create that will only make sense when they beat you in the head with it. And they'll name two people from the past. Yeah. They'll name two people from the past who may or may not have done something, and odds are we don't even know. But the point is, if you can name one person, that shows you what kind of society that we live in. That shows you the mindset of the general public. And most times they be like, well, not all of us were slave owners. Well, guess what? It was the poor white people who hated you the most. Those are the ones who went on these killing sprees the most. And what they don't tell you, a lot of these riots, they said, 20, 25 bodies. No, this was hundreds of bodies every time. They was going through cities slaughtering people. We don't even understand how sick it was. How you could be laying in your house, chilling, minding your own business, and somebody, say some black man somewhere, some made up black man at that, raped some white woman. And now everybody coming in your house, right? But it's really because they're mad that you are leaving their system. You are dependent on your own stuff. And then I know y'all seen those videos from the 1950s, right? When they was encouraging white people to come in and take our money for a reason. Yeah, definitely. King said we coming for our check. And mysteriously, he ended up shot in the face. Now they telling you, what would Martin Luther King say? What would Martin Luther King do? I don't know. Because you killed him. But I do know when he was alive, you was locking him up. I do know when he was alive, they was throwing rocks at him, death threats, trying to destroy his family, right? Because that's the main thing, to keep that separation, divide and conquer on every single level. But, they see you minding your own business because there's no illusion of inclusion in 1901. We understand who our enemy is. We see how sick these people are, right? It ain't like 2021, 1921. We know who our enemies are. It's Red Summer. So you cycling your dollars in your community, right? You got your own grocery store. Then you see, and then this white man who owns a grocery store sees you, you know, getting money with the black community. And guess what? When you start recycling those dollars, right, it start coming a little bit faster. Everybody start having a little bit more. And they thinking, who does this nigga think he is? Because, it's that psychotic mindset. Well, these niggas is below me. These niggas ain't shit. These niggas are born to serve me. Who do they think they are? Let's just go in and burn this grocery store down. And if we need a reason to justify it, we'll say, hey, a white woman accused them of rape. Because when you're self-sufficient, your abuser can't keep you in a position to be needed. Right? Why would you be around somebody who abuses you if you realize you're self-sufficient? That's the purpose of the lynch law. All right, get this first call. Call from. Hello?
Yo, forecast?
Yo, what's going on, brother Bakari?
What's going on, my man?
Ain't nothing, man. What's going on, man?
I'm listening to you, man. It's a good show, my man.
Thank you, bro.
Hey, but you know something, though? We going through the same thing today with the only exception, we have forgotten who our enemy is. We have forgotten it was us versus everybody. We forgot. We have literally forgotten. Everything that you're talking about right now, we're still going through the same. We're going through the same thing. Be it okay. We don't have nobody to say, "Ooh, such and such about slavery," like they claim Lincoln did. But I'm glad you mentioned it because I've been telling people that it had nothing to do with slaves. It had something to do with money. If the South had given if the slave states had given the so-called free states money, part of the money they made from slavery would have never ended, right?
Exactly.
So now, when you look today, we're still looking at, even to the point where you see Farrakhan kissing on the old white man's father, Flager in Chicago, wherever his name, kissing him on the lips, and people talking about what work that guy is doing for black people, right? Mm-hmm. We are still looking outside of ourselves, still hoping for white acceptance, right? Right. We're still doing the exact same thing. Like, look what happened to Bill Cosby. Now, not just Bill, now look at what's happening to Deshaun Watson, the football player in Houston, Texas, right? They gonna get him. Did you see that old ugly white woman on ESPN crying, talking about something? She was a massage therapist, but she left the room and came back. He was naked, but instead of telling him that it was not a naked massage, she said she just, since that's what her passion is, she just felt compelled to continue to do her job, but she was so uncomfortable. Mm. Then you go on, if you study the story, she tried to get him to pay out hush money, and he refused. Yeah. But it's the same thing. Yeah. What you say, the illusion of inclusion is something we suffer from. Like the Stockholm syndrome, battered woman syndrome, that's what we suffer from in this country. And when you mention about the 3/5, see, I was listening to your show because I'm touching on some of the points she was talking about, right? Mm-hmm. So when you mention 3/5 of a human being, look how loyal black people has become to so-called America, right? They love it more than it. They even hate to say they have African ancestry. Someone trying to convince me today that he could tell that black people was already here and we didn't come from Africa because of the stuff that was farmed. And I say name something other than tobacco that wasn't here that black people, well, rice. I said, but rice come from Africa. Watermelons come from Africa. Cotton, they had cotton in Africa. Everything that they were dealing with here on farms was also in Africa, with the exception of tobacco. Mm-hmm. Right? But we are so stuck on wanting to be so loyal to something that absolutely hates your guts, because we feel if we say we are American, this country is going to accept you. Black people, we don't even care about being respected. We care about being accepted by white people. All white people got to eventually do is say, black people, we love y'all. Black people in this country, the majority, would be okay. The revolutionary spirit is already gone away from most. It's already gone away from most. Yeah. Yeah. Real life said, but everyone wants to come to America. I was reading the chat. But everyone don't want to come to America. There's only, out of all of the billions of black people in the world, throughout the world, outside of them, only 5.5 million is in the United States. Everybody don't want to come to America. That's that brainwashing by white people to make them think that America is the greatest place on earth. Right. They think, and see, everybody don't want to come to America. Every people who want power and want to do something, you know what they want to be at for cash? You know what they want? What? They want Africa. Yeah. If you want power, they go to Africa.
America want Africa.
Yes, the only people that don't want Africa is the children of Africa that live in the United States of America, because we have been so brainwashed. But the whole world, they would go to war for Africa because of everything that Africa has, because of the natural resources. But the black people here who are the descendants of Africa, and that's our rightful place, the majority don't even want to be a part. Yeah. There's nothing new under the sun, as they say. And the things that we are going through right now is not new. Even with these mass killings and everything that's going on right now. And that's not even, that's a whole nother story. But man, I just wanted to touch on some of the topics that you was talking about and let you know that I agree with you, and I appreciate your show, brother. One love.
Yeah, man. Thank you, bro. I appreciate you calling in, dog.
One love, man.
All right, bro. Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. Like Bakari was saying, and like with that whole Deshaun Watson thing, that's again an example of the lynch law in action. Because guess what? It's not different. Their tricks are the same. They use different terminology. It's all tricknology is what they do, right? All they have is the art of deception, and that's it's the lynch law in effect is no different from 1890 something till today. This young brother had the nerve to say something and speak out. Now all of a sudden there's allegations. They're gonna run him off. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna try to end his career because he dared to speak up, right? And they love to tell you, well, these athletes make millions of dollars. Well, guess what? It's just like your job. You making your boss millions of dollars too, right? So they're gonna pay you what they pay you. But at the end of the day, there's always going to be somebody above that making more money, right? The one who's cutting the check. And that's usually not, you know, who it's supposed to be. Now, suppose those brothers take it and start their own league. I know who I'd rather watch, right? But they can't have you thinking that. And that's the whole point of the brainwashing, like my brothers was talking about, the propaganda. They have to have the propaganda to make you think that you hate self, right? So they have to, you know, it's all about instilling that self-hate, that self-doubt to make you dependent on somebody else. Now they giving us pieces of paper, but they're taking your gold. And by the way, we're in a position where, we can create whatever we want to create. Right now, they're still in the scramble for Africa. But, we are beaten down and see so much negativity about people who look like us over so long. You start to develop this self-hate. There's a reason why, like they always say, the Muslims usually say, Jesus white, angels white, everything in this is white, because it's meant to instill an inferiority complex. Now you're running from yourself. You're joining somebody else's military to help your own destruction. And we have to realize, these people who are saying, we can just start now. It's not about this. It's not about that. Well, guess what? Everything they've ever done has been about economics. But for us, it's not just about economics. It's about survival. That's the part that we're missing. We don't realize that this is about survival. Because, I mean, they're never going to destroy us. The I know a lot of religious people, the first shall be the last. But it's time that we get up out of the situation that we are in, because time and time out throughout history, and that's the thing that white supremacy does. They'll come in, create total chaos. And this is, again, you study a psychopath, do you see the symptoms of white supremacy? White supremacy is born out of psychopath behavior, right? They go in, destabilize, destroy the whole place, and then turn around and say, look at what this place is, right? But the thing is, we are not taking the next step to say, okay, well, it is what it is, but we can create whatever we want to create, right? We have a different kind of knowledge going through the experience, and we can take our knowledge and join it, throughout the world, and rebuild those places. Of course, they're decimated if people have been slaughtered, have been killed. And He said nobody wants to slaughter you. Well, centuries say otherwise, right? And the thing is, that's why I always say, because I actually hope that I'm wrong. But the problem is, when you look at history, you're not wrong. You can come up through every decade, every year. It's the same thing happening, right? You think it wasn't a Micah Johnson in 1921 or 1916 or 1816? We've always had this spirit within us, but once we realize that, because their whole mission is to stop the rise of the Black Messiah. But what they don't have, they can't understand certain concepts, right? They usually take our concepts and water them down, and they can't really fully understand the concepts. And their mission is to stop the rise of the Black Messiah. But the Black Messiah is Black unity. That's what we have to understand. Our Savior is us working together, right? Somebody may be a doctor, somebody may be a businessman, somebody may be a teacher. It's just putting those together in one space and not fighting over, well, my religion is this and my religion is that, so we can't put it together. Because guess what? Your enemy learned how to do that, because they had differences, they still do, but they learn how to unite under the whiteness. That's why you see people defending that dude Kyle Rittenhouse or whatever his name is. You see elected officials doing that, and you can see how a people is by the officials that they elect. They love to say it's just a few people. So how does all of these racist people keep getting elected? And the real question is, why do Black people keep helping these racist officials get elected? Because the lesser of two evils? As if Joe Biden is any less evil than Donald Trump, when their whole mission is to keep you in your place, right? Maybe the difference is Donald Trump wouldn't have passed the Stop Asian Hate bill. Is that what we fought for? Is that what we were about? And guess who became the target of that bill? Right. That's because they destroyed their country and take their resources and tell them what they can and can't do with their own natural resources. Who does that but a psychopath? Tell somebody else how to dress, how to look, how to act. Make your hairstyle legal. Make your dress style legal. The way you walk, the way you talk, illegal. No, the thing is, I'm not saying that. See, you got to understand. This is why I let these trolls in there, because they're going to contradict themselves. They're going to show their true colors, right? Because they defend people like this, right? But what I'm telling you is learn how they act, learn how they move. You see, when you defend yourself, oh, it's wrong. You should have just did what they say. You should have just complied. When they do it, they automatically somehow understand. That lets you know that this is on purpose. So why are we sitting here still trying to explain something to somebody who already knows it? This is called gaslighting, to keep you in your position. Because when it's time for their self defense, they automatically understand the rules of self defense, right? They understand things that are illegal. Well, we'll just look past that. But Philando Castile say I got a gun. Well, yeah, you shouldn't have did whatever he did. But they understand that. That's why I'm saying study what they do. Look at how they act, right? They show you self defense. They show you getting on code. They show you acting when they feel like their system is being destroyed, and you need to respond with more urgency than they do. Yeah, I don't even think he hides it better. I don't even think. Well, I guess for other groups, but Biden doesn't even have to hide it. How is saying you're not black if you don't vote for me hiding racism, you know? But as black people, instead of actually going into the root, we like to address symptoms, right? Black people being shot down needs to stop, but it's a symptom of white supremacy, one symptom. It won't solve all of your problems. Now, it's something that has to stop and something that we have to do. But the whole thing is this white supremacy mindset, and they put it on TV, no different. Well, same concept as the whole buck breaking thing. So you see somebody on TV slaughtering, get beat down, and they tell you if you don't comply, this is going to happen to you. This is all by design. And they aren't very creative, but what they use is deception because they have to use deception. That's why, they can only bring up when people talk about who slaughtered people, they bring up other Europeans as if we can be compared to other Europeans. And, that goes back to this whole thing, right? Because, you're talking about Democrats and Republicans and I was talking about Abraham Lincoln. That's why everybody have to look up the Morrill Tariff Acts, and that shows you why America went to civil war. It was about that paper. It was about exploiting slaves. And Abraham Lincoln went out of his way to try to keep slavery intact, right? He didn't just say, okay, I don't care either way. No, it was about keeping that money coming in from America, for America. And that's why everything they do, right? They will not do it for you. Money doesn't mean anything, but every group gets reparations, right? You have where they gave out land in the 1800s. What do you think they got that money for? It's all about power and control, coming in to control your natural resources, but they will tell you and try to convince you that it's not about money, it's not about this, it's not about that. It's about what they say. They tell you how to feel. Something that a psychopath does, tell you how to feel. But your feelings are valid, and we have a right to be mad. You should be mad, and you should use that anger constructively to destroy the system and create your own. But the thing is, this system, as long as this system is exists, their mindset will be to seek and destroy, to get in control of. You really have to understand the mind of a psychopath. They must be in control of everything. And they live in this psychotic, delusional world. And they use deflection. They talk about other topics. They cut you off. They don't let you say what you need to say in a certain forum. They use all of the same tactics because it's a mental disorder, and a mental disorder cannot be reasoned with. But it does not mean they don't cognitively know what they are doing, because they absolutely do. And it wasn't just some grand thing that happened. It was little bit over a little bit, over a little bit. And that's why we need to learn how to set strong boundaries to stop everything in its tracks, nip it in the bud. Yeah, you're right. I definitely watched my own brain. I cleaned my brain out and got the white supremacy filth out of my mind. Now I understand what kind of psychopath killer Christopher Columbus was. But what does that tell you about a nation to say that a psychopathic killer, right, who even his own peers put him on trial, but even back then the people fought for this crazy killer to be free. But what does that say about a nation who idolizes and say a psychopathic maniac killer, a criminal, a thug discovered America? What kind of mindset does that take? Or somebody like George Washington, who was a psychopathic killer, right? But guess what? He said, it's time for us to have our own, right? It's time for us, and in the words of Martin Luther King, to cut the check, to go get our check. And he said, same thing I'm saying, self-defense, right? I'm not telling you anything against white supremacy. I'm telling you, for Black empowerment, be for yourself. It's okay to love yourself, because that is the number one thing that they want to do, to take away your love for yourself so that you doubt yourself. We doubt each other. We don't love each other. We hate each other. That is the main point. Because if you doubt yourself, it's easier to control you, to keep you in your position. And as long as they keep you shocked and in a confused position, then they can tell you anything they want. But uh, George Washington told them to go to war, fight for your freedom. Or Patrick Henry, liberty or death. And they put George Washington on the side of a mountain. But I think it was Gabriel Prosser. Gabriel Prosser said, death or liberty. And they erased him from history. See, that's the thing. And what they have to understand is it's bigger than them. And their forefathers are probably turning over, those criminal thugs is probably turning over in their grave, because their system is falling apart right before their eyes. Right? Stuff like the internet is the great equalizer, where they can't control all the content. Right? You can learn real history. You can learn how all of this developed. Right? They can't get over with the simple technology that they try to do and the words they try to use, because you have to understand, you have to study their lingo. Right? When they try to talk about, like, when they bring up, what about black on black crime? Right? But you have to notice when they account for population and when they don't, because they're not dumb. Well, I ain't gonna say they're not dumb, but they use deception. And you got to understand, when you study anything, all of these things are low vibration, low energy, all of these things, when they come back with karma. And that's why they're so terrified. If you ever get in that position, you're going to do to them what they did to you. Because jealousy, hatred. All right, let's take this phone call. Hello? Hello?
you doing?
Oh, what's going on, my brother?
All right. Doing pretty good. Yourself?
I'm good, man. It's been a while, man. How you been doing, bro?
Yes, sir. Been a while. Doing all right. We're down here in Mississippi now.
Oh yeah.
So we made that move,
Yeah, that's what's up.
and really preparing to get everything together for the next phase of our work.
Yeah. So the project coming along.
Yes, sir. And so your conversation that you're having tonight about what's going on is a very poignant and on-time topic, because we got to understand that time is up for us looking to these demons for the answers to our situations. We got to really take the ball in our hands, and we got to make it happen. Period, point blank. There is no more, let's take a minute to think about it. No, we got to go out and do what needs to be done. They're not looking to us to say, hey, let's get along, let's be friends, let's do right. That's not their message to us. Their message to us is, nigga, you stay where I put you, or I'm going to deal with you. And the answer that we consistently give back to them is, let's talk about it. Let's march, let's protest. If the enemy gives you, if you can address your grievance by going out and peacefully protest, they're saying for you your method that you can use, that they will allow you to use to get your point across, and nothing ever changes using that method. I think it would be naturally right for us to wake up into the understanding that if you want power, you want the police to stop killing you, you want these bastards to stop lying and calling the police and getting you killed, if you're ready for all that to stop, then you got to be ready to take power. You got to be ready to take power. Not be on the Democratic plantation or the Republican plantation, but you set your own table, and then you go and take exactly what you want. That's the only thing America respects. They don't respect a beggar. They don't respect somebody that's willing to plead with them. They don't respect that. But when you bust them upside, when you make them bleed, then they'll say, okay, let's sit down and talk. Let's see if we can work it out. Because now you're speaking the language that they understand. This is about our ability to make them feel what they don't want to feel, to make them do what they don't want to do. And you can only do that from a position of power. From a position of power.
Yeah.
And anything less is not going to work. Anything less is just not going to work. And so we should understand that we were born in this particular time to do what this time dictates. And it doesn't dictate for us to want to be nice and to be friendly. You don't be friendly with a wild animal that's looking for blood. Ain't no such. So we gotta be friendly with each other, because we are all we got. I mean, you think about it, right? These crackers, they create Superman, Batman, Aquaman, Wonder Woman. They create superheroes to give people a feel-good message, a feel-good time, something that they can look at and say, man, yeah, I believe in a Superman. But if you ever look at who is the enemy of Superman, it's a regular man, Lex Luger. A regular man. He ain't got no superpower. He's regular. So their history, cracker versus cracker, rich cracker versus poor cracker. And the rich cracker always dominate the poor cracker.
And they don't get it.
And so they come up with these little bullshit superheroes to get you sold in that it takes a super individual to defeat the wicked. And so that the poor man always look to somebody else instead of looking at themselves to say, let me get up and put an ending to this foolishness. See, they still got us like the poor cracker looking for the Superman. And we got to understand, ain't no such thing. We got to get up and defeat the demons. Because they're not super. These are regular, everyday crackers. Hitler wasn't no anomaly. There was no anomaly. Like you said, he's just like George Washington. They're just like the rest of them. They all are like this. And so we got to be able to look at the information squarely and then get up and go to war. It's just that simple. If not, then we're going to sentence the generations that come after us to the same bullshit that we were sentenced to. So we have to be that generation who will not turn our responsibility, who will not run away from our mission. We are to run this damn thing and not run it in the way of the enemy. But we run it black first. Black first. Cracker had the nerve enough to ask me, you setting up your own political party called Black First, why would you think a white person would want to vote for a black person or even anybody in a party that's called Black First? I said, well, first of all, we're not asking you to vote for us. We're not asking for that. But let's look at what you've received under white first. Because that's what you lived, under white first. Let's look and see what happened. I said, how did you get educated? These rich crackers wasn't looking to educate your dumb poor ass. It was because we got out of slavery and we started opening up our own schools. We were teaching our own children. Y'all poor ass crackers, you never had your own schools. You never even was sent to school until we opened up our own school, and then the Freedmen's Bureau said we're going to help these niggas and give them some money. And they said, well, shit, if we're going to give the niggas some money for schools, that means we gotta teach these poor crackers. We got to have schools for them too then. So if it wasn't for us starting our own schools, these poor dumb crackers wouldn't have no goddamn schooling, because the schools were for the rich white, not the poor white. So even what they look at of what they gained, which was nothing, the cracker said, look, all we got to do is tell the poor cracker to hate the black man, and we can rob the black man and the cracker at the same time, the poor cracker at the same time, and they'll help us to rob the nigga and make sure that they get nothing from it. Yeah. So I say, you can continue living under your false reality, but at the end of the day, all of that shit comes to an end. Because y'all numbers are dying, but ours are not. So you're going to be under black rule one way or another. So we're not asking you for shit. We're telling you what's coming. We're telling you, you better get your mind right, because this is what the rule of the day going to be. It will be black first. And if you come against that, then you're going to pay the price. We will rule our way with our laws, and we will not hesitate. We will not hesitate to carry out our law 110%. So we got to embrace who we are. And we got to walk that And don't punk out because a cracker or some other black person are not comfortable with the idea of the reality of black first ruling. Because this is what we're here to be. We're not here to continue following them. We're here to rule. So let's clean up. Let's get ourselves together so that we can rule. Because it's on us now. The Chinese think that they're going to rule. They ain't going to rule shit. It's on us. It is really our day. It is really our time. And I thank you, brother, for allowing me to come on. I just wanted to come on and support you and give you my love, tell you I love you. I missed you while you was gone, and while you was gone, I was in and out around the same time, going through different issues. But I'm glad that you're back and stronger than you were before.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we definitely got to get together, big bro.
Yeah, man. Like, I was telling Bakari, I got to do a show with you too, man. I'm glad everything working out with your whole project, yo. Like, I know I'm gonna get a chance to come out there too. Hopefully sooner than later.
Most definitely. Yeah, we can definitely use you out here and let you see exactly what we got going on, and then you can see the vision. And I tell you, bro, it's what's needed. It is definitely what's needed. So we're letting everybody know. Start getting this stuff together. And when we make that call, come on.
Yeah.
Come on, let's get this done. Because we are all we got. Yeah. That's all it is. It's just us. If we don't do it, ain't nobody coming to do it for us.
Facts. Yeah. I appreciate it, bro. Yo, thanks for calling in, man. I'm always glad to hear from you. Dropping knowledge like always, my brother.
Yes, certainly, bro. I love you, brother.
Yeah, you too. I love you too, dog.
Yes, sir.
All right, bro. Yeah, that was definitely real, and I like that analogy he was talking about with the superheroes, and that's exactly it, and that's that Republican plantation they done tricked them onto, right? And the reason I don't really talk about it a lot because it's not my issue to save, poor white people, but that's an important issue that needs to be addressed because you got to understand these are the people who were the most violent. It wasn't really the slave owners who were killing slaves, right? They were violent and all this. But the people who were doing the lynchings and the massive murders were the poor white people. And they convinced them that the poorest white person is better than the highest black person. And they sold in hook, line, and sinker. And they're bought into this American corporation, right? They believe nonsense about their ancestors, but they really don't believe it. They know the truth because, like, if you start talking about technical stuff about history, they know it. They just might deflect. But, you know, that is an important aspect to keep the poor white person, right, in a certain position to where they can feel like they're in control. They have to have some kind of feeling of control to keep them working for the elites, the people who are really in charge. But, they're killing them off as well. They don't care that they're dying by record numbers, ODing everywhere. you know of course they probably care about their birth rate, but that whole Republican plantation to keep them as their workers, to keep them you know fighting for this corporation called America, right? But they're ready to lynch you for it. And that's just the mindset you know that they have. And when my brother was talking about, black first, you got to understand when they talk about doing these political, debates or all of that kind of stuff, when they say the American people, you know who they're referring to. So for us to say black first, it's time for us to stop being apologetic about being about us. It's not about hating nobody else. They call it that because that's called projection, right? If you was, and it's all about battered wife syndrome. And I don't want to say battered wife syndrome because, I'm not a woman, right? But it's Stockholm syndrome that we suffer from. But Can you name an abuser that respects their victim? Yet the victim always tries to get validation and respect from their abuser, right? But it's really the abuser who is the weak one, but the victim just doesn't see it. And that's why we have to stop being apologetic when we say, black first, or if we say stop killing us, we apologize for that. We got to say, well, not all cops are bad. Guess what? Every single cop enforces the system of white supremacy, and that's black cops too. But every single cop enforces white supremacy. Every single military personnel enforces the system of white supremacy, right? And when they go on these elections, they when they say the American people, they are talking about white society, right? That's why they have separate questions for black people. They say, well, what about the black issues? What we're gonna You're a whole different category. And by the way, in every single election, Barack Obama included, every single election, when they ask that question, they avoid it. They avoid it. They talk about everybody. But when it's the American people, it's the American people. But again, like I said earlier, can you show me a law that overturned the Dred Scott case? Can you show me a law that says you want 3/5 of a person? Because the 14th and the 15th Amendment said persons, right? But their laws say you are just 3/5 of the person. You aren't a person, and they have no laws to overturn that. How do you think the Casual Killing Act is still in effect, where a Negro can get killed for resisting arrest? It's not a mistake. It's not an accident. They understand it. We have to understand it. But what we don't understand is we live in a society where they call people like Thomas Jefferson a great hero. Dude was a pedophile rapist. What kind of society idolizes pedophile raping murderers, thugs, criminals, and calls them their forefathers? Who does that? And these are the people you want to reason with. These are the people you want to talk to. These are the people you want to share society with. The same people who tell you that Trayvon Martin deserved to be killed. Why would you want to live in a society like that? I'm not going to debate whether Trayvon Martin deserved to be killed or not. That's disrespectful to him. You know what? I just rather not be in the society with you at all, because it's disrespectful. And by the way, anybody could call in. And before I get off here, I'm gonna give y'all a chance to call in. Number 804-601-4015. You see the troll definitely won't call in, but I definitely want them to come in and challenge me on anything, right? You could be on anything, because they push out false propaganda. But when you just read a little bit of history, or just study what they say, right? Go back and look for it yourself. Oftentimes, and most of the poor white people are regurgitating what they heard the elite people tell them to say, and they don't really know, because they don't really do research. They just repeat it. That's why you hear lies about, black slave owners in America, like the first slave owner in America was black. That's a flat out lie, right? The first slave owner was a white person, but they use this false propaganda, right? They have no problem lying. This is what you got to understand. People who idolize psychopathic, murdering killers. Do you understand what Christopher Columbus did? He just chopped off people for not getting gold fast enough, chopped off their hands, their legs, their limbs, killed thousands of people, hundreds, thousands. They worship him and teach about him in their schools, have schools and a holiday named after him. This is the people you're dealing with. You gotta understand what that means. And You can only do stuff like that if you have the same kind of energy, the same kind of mindset, right? But again, we have to understand the power that we have, and it's not about having the biggest army or the most weapons, because again, they aren't very creative, they aren't very smart. We have knowledge, right? They just take watered down knowledge that we have, but it's in our DNA. We are our ancestors. That's what we have to realize. We are our ancestors. We don't have to, we don't have to, and they give their ancestors false credit, but they will never let anybody take their ancestors away from them, no matter if they were psychopathic, killer thugs and criminals that really should be erased from history. They're going to fight to the death to keep their history. But somehow we got to sit there and explain ourselves when we learn about our freedom fighters. Because, and you know what, you look up the same thing, like it's the same questions they gave James Baldwin, right? James Baldwin destroyed all of their talking points 50, 60 years ago, but it's the same talking points every time. But yeah, I'm gonna give the people a few more minutes to call in the number 804-601-4015, because hopefully I have a new video up soon. And make sure y'all subscribe to the backup channel. The video from the other day is up on that one. I don't put it on here, because again, they have to control the narrative. You gotta understand, like, we can't learn about our history. We can't learn about powerful people in our history because, it messes up the whole tale. But it's time for us to start seeing history, but not only that, but seeing it through your Black perspective, through your own eyes, not through the lens of white supremacy like they taught us. Because, what they do, and again, I'm gonna always keep saying, study your enemies. They go in, they, first of all, they come in with, like, they're friendly to let your guard down using deception, and then they come in and destabilize your whole area, right? They infest it, they spread rumors and lies and go tell the next person, right? Or which would be the next village, tribe, or whatever, city, nation, whatever, right? Like they do with Black people in different parts of the world. They say, oh, well, Americans don't like Africans and Africans don't like Americans. Right? Well, first of all, Africa is a whole continent. So that right there shows you, the kind of mindset that they're coming from. But that's the whole divide and conquer, because in actuality, and this is the mindset that they have. They said when the minority becomes the majority, right? So the minority, they still calling them, even though the majority, they still call them the minority. But in the world, they are the minority, and there's no way they could be in the position they were in if they didn't start issues between you and them. Right? So first they get you to let your guard down, right? They bring you some ham sandwiches or something, right? And give you a Bible or whatever. And then they go to your neighbor, do the same thing, but they say, oh, well, he talking about coming and take over your kingdom, right? To come take your women, right? Really the stuff that they're going to do, right? Projecting that onto them. So they go to war and they fund both sides of this war, right? They're giving these people guns, they're giving these people guns. And they step back and they kill each other. And then they come over now that they're fighting each other and they're decimated. They just come and take over both of their natural resources. And a lot of times under the guise like they're helping them, right? Like they're doing them a favor by taking over their natural resources in their country because they fight it on both sides. And that's no different from one of the last things that they did to our community when they unleashed the crack epidemic. Right? They took drugs from another place, brought them here, and made enough money, mostly our black people, to fund a small war. Right now, we can come up with that kind of money, right, for drugs. Why can't we do it for our schools, right, for our self protection? So if we having a mental health crisis, we don't got to call the police. So if there's a problem where cops is violating somebody's rights, we can call somebody and people show up armed. They gonna think twice then. Cause like my brothers say, they only respect force. Like a bully only respects getting punched in the face. That's the only thing that they respect. Now, it don't mean that they're gonna stop being them. That's why you have to be prepared. But they catch you on both sides. Like in the drug epidemic, first they make money selling you the drugs. Then on the back end, they make money putting you in jail for having the drugs. Right now, that's $1 billion industry. And all the while, it still serves the main goal of destroying the black family. The most important goal, keeping the black man and woman separated. Keeping the black, because when you have that strong family household, you raise a child that's not born a slave, because it's harder to make a slave than to raise one from birth. So you have a child that's not a slave, that has a knowledge of self, of what and who he is and the power that he or she has, right? You start having that in each home, in a community. You build a community, you build a neighborhood, you build a city, you build a state, you build a nation. And until we got an army or a nation to back us up, then the same thing will keep happening. And let me say this, because understand that we will get our reparations one way or another. It's going to happen. Our ancestors' blood, sweat, and tears will never go in vain. It won't stop. We will get our reparations. Now, is the people going to be ready for whatever it takes to get it? Eh, But at some point, we're going to get it. It cannot go. It cannot be that way. Our ancestors' blood, sweat, and tears will be paid off. Right? And the system is already being destroyed, but we just got to realize who we are. Black unity is the black messiah. We are all we got at the end of the day. But I appreciate everybody for listening, man. And make sure y'all subscribe to the other channel. That's where the videos that you used to is going to be at. I can't really put them on these channels. YouTube, like, they like to do one strike at a time. So like I'm always got like a warning, just so they can just hit me where I can't post for a week. So make sure y'all go there and subscribe to that. You'll get the new video. I'll try to come back on Sunday, and I'll let the people know. But I appreciate y'all watching, man. I appreciate brother Bakari, my brother Maurice Muhammad, for calling in, man. Much respect to everybody, much love to everybody out there, man. And again, thank y'all for all the support. And of course, the haters and the trolls or whatever. Hopefully soon, we'll get some trolls with enough courage to call in and try to challenge me on something. But of course, they know what we're saying better than well, not better than I do, but they know what we're saying is the truth. It's time we start making our own heroes, our own idols. If I had to pick one, my hero, my idol I would say Miss Ida B. Wells. Don't believe what they tell you about her. She was about black people. She said black people should have a rifle there should be a rifle in every black person's home. Don't believe what they tell you about our heroes, our ancestors, right? Don't believe somebody who worships a psychopath killer like George Washington or Thomas Jefferson as if they're somehow different from Hitler. Don't let them tell you about your history. Learn about your own history and teach your children about our history. But, as always, man, I appreciate y'all for listening. And, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe and all that. And, as always, man, if we don't. Okay.